In this video, I'll show you how to make your own abandoned plane. First, let's gonna drop the image of the background. Then we need to drop our main subject, in this case, the plane. Now it's time to make a mask, so for that let's gonna make a selection with the pen tool, cause it's more precise. Once you finish to make your selection with the pen tool, just put left click and make selection. And I forgot to say that, but once you get your selection, convert it to smart object and then you're gonna make another mask. This is for erase the bottom of the plane. Once you finish to erase the bottom of the plane, it's time to make the reflection. So for that, press Ctrl J to duplicate the layer. Then we need to go to Edition, Transform and Flip Vertical. Then play with the position and some rotation for the reflection. Once you get that, put the reflection layer under the first layer of the plane. And before to start to make the color correction of the plane, we have a problem with the background, because you can see in this part of the lake make the reflection of the trees. So to fix that, we're gonna duplicate the background layer, rasterize layer, and then you can use this tool to repeat some parts of the image. And once you finish, convert into smart object the background, and then you can start to make the color correction on the composition. So first let's gonna drop some shadows into the lake. And to get more realistic results on the reflection, you can see these trees have a little blur. So for that, convert to smart object the layer of the reflection. Then go to Filter, Gallery Blur, and select Tracing Blur. And here you can play with the slider of velocity to get new results like the trees. Now I'm gonna define the dark areas and lights in the background using the adjustment layer curves. It's time to match with the ambient the plane, so for that choose the adjustment layer color balance, and don't forget that the background gonna be your guide. Once you make the configurations in the color balance, duplicate this layer for the reflection. It's time to drop some shadows, so I'm gonna use exposure adjustment layer. And before to start painting the shadows in the plane, I'm gonna use the blend div. So for that, make double click in the exposure layer, and with the slider get the lights into the shadows. This is for not affect the lights in the plane. Now in my case I want to put more shadows in the background, so I'm gonna use exposure adjustment layer and paint a tiny bit. For the highlights we're gonna use the hue and saturation adjustment layer. Setting colorize, and with the slider get into the color orange nearby yellow and play with the saturation and luminosity. And to get the best integration with the lights, we're gonna use the blend if again. Now with the soft brush, decrease the flow and start painting this area. Now it's time to add a depth of field, so for that select the layer of the background, then go to filter, gallery blur and select tilt sheet. Now I'm gonna use this mouse picture and make a selection in this spot. Once you get it, I'm gonna use swap to match with the shape of the turbine. Then I use another mouse picture and match with this part of the plane. So for that I make a mask and with a brush start painting in some parts, and you can repeat this effect for the windows. I'm gonna use this texture, so for that I'm gonna use the blend mode screen. Then with a soft brush decrease your flow and it's ready to paint. And finally I'm gonna add some glow, so for that I'm gonna use a solid color. And then with the brush I'm gonna decrease the flow and paint only the edge of the plane. And it's time for a camera raw filter. So for that press Ctrl Shift E, come here to Smart Object, then go to Filter and select Camera Raw Filter. And here you can play with the clarity, the textures, blacks, whites, shadows, luminance, contrast. Well, in the Camera Raw filter you can set the configurations, all that you want, and the final result depends on you. And for me these settings are perfect. And this is the way that I made my own abandoned plane. If you want to use the same stock images that I use for this tutorial, I'm gonna leave the link in the description. I hope that you learned something new today. If you like the content, feel very free to subscribe, and I will see you into the next video.